Hey everybody, welcome. I'm back, week 2 from Germany, and today I want to talk about what makes a good aquarium. I had a lot of downtime considering I was stuck in quarantine for my wife having COVID, so I had a lot of time to reflect on what I saw while I was in Germany, and there was definitely lots of stuff to see. There was, big, beautiful displays, there's different types of stores, there was different types of hobbyists, there was breeders, there was all of these things, right? And one thing that I really saw there being a disparity of, there'd be people that were kind of doing it for, let's say, money or notoriety or their job. And then there were people that were doing it as passion projects. And those people were different. I think I'm somewhere in between with always wanting to lean back towards passion project. But I find myself getting myself into trouble. Like I've got these frogs that when they breed, the babies hatch out of their back and that kind of stuff. And while I think it's kind of cool, I'm not necessarily in love with them. Like I still check up on them and they're interesting, but I kind of know that once they breed, I'm going to raise them and then kind of be done with them because I'm not in love with the way they look or the way their aquarium is or the way they're interacting with me. And so I put together a list of some things to think about that makes a good aquarium for me. And everyone's going to be different, right? Some people might say they only want a biotope aquarium, and that would be where all the fish and the plants and everything come from the same region in the world. For others, it might be a specific fish is going to breed. Everyone's got their own North Star when it comes to aquariums. Is it a highly aquascape tank you're entering into a competition that you'll tear down in a year? Is it a pond you're setting up outside? And so I've got general principles that work for me, and I think for most people, if you follow most of these, that they will guide you to what I think is a good aquarium. And I think you'll have similar opinions. So first, I think a good aquarium, to start defining that, I think it's the whole ecosystem. It's not just, do your fish look good? Do your plants look good? Is your water clear? It's the whole package. And for me, where it really started, I really started thinking about that is, how do I handle this? I was supposed to be gone for 2 weeks. It got extended to 3 weeks. And so the people I had taking care of my aquariums while I was gone changed. And so one of the things that I really put value on was resiliency and redundancy. So one thing that made it easier for me is right before I left, I think you guys saw in the members only video, I had set up some cameras that allowed me to check on Ladybird and the fish room in general and just get a visual cue of like, yep, looks the same. And so that's like one of the most extra features you could have on a fish tank as a camera. But what I know that I do like is I run air pumps and sponge filters, almost no moving parts. The lighting, I had skylights, but also lights kind of over the aquariums. And if those didn't come on, it wasn't, my plants would suffer a little bit, but still had some natural light coming into the room. And I think you guys can do that too with, you see all around me, I have windows and there's shades down right now. But to add some redundancy, I could leave some of that up in my fish room if I had windows, which I have none. That's actually why I'm up here for work. And let some of that light in so that maybe the lights don't have to turn on and off, or someone forgets to turn them on and that kind of stuff. I froze? Am I still froze? Is that a thing? I was having that problem the other day. I don't know if that's... No, it looks fine on my screen. So, all right, hopefully it was just one person froze, and the reason I clued in on that is I had a meeting where I was freezing, but I did a lot of testing. Anyway, back to redundancy and resiliency, which maybe I don't have in my camera here. But, I was using auto feeders on the tanks that I could, and the tanks that were really worrying me the most were the ones where I couldn't do that. And that would be like the turtle. He just wasn't used to eating pellets, like floating pellets or round pellets yet. He'd only eat algae wafers. I have my ellipsifer eel that wants to eat frozen food all the time. Ladybird eats frozen food. And so I'd have these things that didn't work on auto feeders, and that made me worry, like, are they getting fed the right thing? Did I leave enough food? We actually ran out of clams. I just picked them up from the store yesterday, about 2 or 3 days after we got back from... Well, that's not true. Like like 4 or 5 days after we got back from Germany. And so I hadn't thought, what if I had been, we could have got stuck there another week. So again, didn't really have all of that redundancy like I probably should have. But when it comes to filtration, all of that, I just want it to work. And so a good aquarium, it's something that you don't have to worry about, I think. And so that's one of the big keys for me, is not having to worry, oh, does that thing get clogged up? Oh, is this, does the light almost fall in? Is it a little hokey how I got things set up? I want it so that, if I had a cat, the cat jumps up, nothing breaks, all that kind of stuff. So that's one of my big things, is the aquarium, what makes a good aquarium for me, kind of redundant and bulletproof. Next, I would say, am I enjoying it? And for me, are other people that look at my aquariums enjoying it? So that's not you guys, the fans. That's my wife, family, friends that come over. Do they, I've got 70 aquariums basically, and which ones do they go, ooh, I like looking at this one. They like looking at, Elmer and Ladybird, and, but for the most part, they don't care about those frogs or the ellipse for eel that hides the whole time and that kind of stuff. So I end up getting less enjoyment because I talk about it less. People come to the room, I'm showing them, what are these? What is that? What is that? But people basically never ask about those frogs or some of the other harder to take care of stuff. And so for me, I want that enjoyment though. I get some enjoyment out of it, but it's another level if I get enjoyment and other people get enjoyment too, because that furthers my enjoyment of talking about, I almost have to be like, hey, do you see these frogs? When they have babies, they're going to come out of their back. Super gross, right? So I like it when other people are interested in my aquariums as well, because that also furthers the passion for me, and that helps make that aquarium better for me. Next thing I think is evolving on your aquarium. So what makes a good aquarium for me is it's not just newly set up. We've talked about having your aquarium be seasoned and well cycled and all of that, but is this version 2, 3, 4, 5? Rarely does someone set anything up in the world and go, this is the best version I can make first try. And so for me, a lot of times that might be, yes, I've set up aquariums, I've set up the plants, I've set up the filter, I've set up this, I've put the fish in. And then the odds I got all that right are slim. So usually then the process for me is, well, let's look in on that. Ooh, yeah, the flow's a little strong in that corner. I don't like the way algae is growing on this wall because of the way the light is. Maybe I adjust that. And so that might be version 2. And so you make those changes. Now you're up to version 3. Maybe I need to adjust the fertilizer. The fish, maybe I need to take one species out because they're getting out competed for food. Maybe I need to change the food. Maybe I need to change the place of the auto feeder. And so that's what makes a good aquarium for me, is when it's gone down these iterations. If you have a recipe for food and it's the first time you've ever made it, it might be great, but you kind of know, like, ooh, next time a little creamier, next time, ooh, a little less salt, whatever that is. That's how you get the recipe for the good aquarium, is you put a bunch of these things together, and at the end you have something that you're proud of and you're really enjoying, because you're removing the parts you don't, you're adding more of the parts you do. You hate cilantro, so you're keeping that out of the recipe and you're putting in more of, Reese's peanut butter cups, whatever it is you like. I think that's a key ingredient to what makes an aquarium good for each person. Next, I think, so I've said this a million times and I always get pushback, and having more time to think, I think I've realized where I'm going wrong. And for me, I've always stated that if fish are breeding, that's a sign your aquarium is healthy. And people would point out that's not necessarily true. Not people, well, I guess people too, but fish can breed in adverse conditions, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it is beneficial to them. But I do believe that fish trying to breed in general, whether you're successful or not, I don't care about that, in general proves some things to me of a good aquarium. One, I really enjoy seeing that behavior, whether it's white clouds dancing at each other, whether it was the leporinis that I had caught in Peru. They were doing behaviors I hadn't seen before, digging pits and stuff. That was fun. But that was part of that good aquarium evolution. The leporinis and the pink-tailed chalceus actually went to the store after being moved out into a pond while I was in and this might be a good thing to talk about, while I was in Germany. So I knew that these fish were out competing for food on Elmer, and that was not great long term. And then when they started to breed, my fear became, is this going to be a good thing to have happening while I have people looking in on the aquariums? And my thought was no. Like, here's just now starting to breed. They're really dominating the food. They're getting a little territorial over space in the aquarium and the pits they're digging to breed. And so I thought, I'm not comfortable leaving the country for 2 weeks and having someone look in on it and having to judge whether I don't want to come back to Elmer having one eye or something, right? And so I decided, okay, between they're only getting bigger and they're eating the lion's share of the food here, maybe they got to move out into a pond, and they did, and that was fine. And then when I got back yesterday, I brought them in. So they're actually for sale at the store. I have no idea how much they are. I didn't ask, but that took a fish that I literally caught in Peru. I thought it was going to be a good mix and all of that. And over time, on version 2, right? Like, it's not quite a right mix. And so we moved them out. Now, one thing I want to point out why I thought this might be interesting is I actually, even though I own the store, I had to ask the store, when could I bring them in? When would we have a large enough tank for them? And I actually had to wait about 7 weeks. So that's something to think about, I think, as a hobbyist of like, when trying to rehome fish, even as a guy that owns a store, it's not instantly. Like, could I have forced them? Sure. Could we put them into a bad situation at the store? Sure. But the goal is to put them into one of the better situations at the store so that they could sit there a long time to find the right home and not be like, if they don't get out of this 20-gallon tank, they're going to die. So therefore, we better sell them to the first person that wants them. So I think that was a good learning lesson to impart on you guys, is sometimes it can take a long time to make these changes. To make my aquarium better took 7 weeks, and to just move those fish out from my fish room. And so it's not always instant gratification, and these are, especially with dealing live things, it could be a very long process. If I get Elmer huge, finding an appropriate home might take years. Same if I had to rehome Murphy or Ladybird, any of these are really big animals. So, but back to, talking about good aquariums and what makes them good. I do think that fish in general, trying to breed, I'd much rather have them trying to breed than trying to fight off ick or something like that. Like when you see fish colored up and flaring and doing their thing, I take that as a good sign. One of the good signs. It's not, it doesn't mean like when your fish are breeding, you're a millionaire. Like there's 4 billion steps between those, but it's one like, I'm glad to see my fish are at least in good enough shape to be breeding and not too skinny or anything like that. Next up, plants. Are the plants looking vibrant? For me, I think good aquariums always have plants, whether they're real or fake, but just I like that look. And so are they expanding? Are they starting to look sickly? I could be in version 5 of an aquarium. The plants are too big, but I haven't adjusted fertilizer, and so they're starting to get holes or look a little yellow. Or maybe in version 4 of this aquarium, I adjusted the light back, and now they're not getting enough light, or all of these things. That really, to me, you've got 3 parts. You've basically got fish, you've got plants, and you've got the ecosystem, like the bacteria and all of that. And so plants are a big one for me, though, because even if your ecosystem's very strong and your fish look great, but all the plants look terrible and are dying, when you look at that aquarium, I won't go, ooh, that's a nice aquarium. I'll go, ooh, man, we gotta get those plants looking a little better, because then it'll really look good, right? It's kind of like having, maybe a car that runs really good. It's super safe, but someone has just like, taken a baseball bat to the outside of the thing several times, and it just looks like a train wreck. Like, oh, wouldn't that be sweet if it had the good look there too to match the other things? All right. Next, I kind of put a list together of elements that I think are super easy. Well, maybe that's not easy, but are very key to me. Because there's things that I just always point out in my brain of going, oof, I would change that. That is definitely something I would change. And the first one, I always want a background. Always. 99% of the time, I want it to be a black background, even though a decent amount of my tanks have these like 3D backgrounds, I kind of still prefer black. I need a little bit of variety in there, but if I was only going to choose one, every aquarium would be black. Let's say I have the store full of tanks and I have my fish room full of tanks, and let's say there's 200 tanks combined, like 185 of them are black background. Well, that's not true. 160 of them are black background. Maybe 15 have 3D backgrounds and 15 have blue backgrounds. What I know for sure, I really don't like blue. I really love the black. And then the 3D backgrounds are like, that's pretty cool, but I don't know if I like giving up the space. I don't know if I like when the algae grows on it. I don't know if I like nets kind of rubbing up against it and making it hard to catch fish. But in general, I do know a background. I gotta have a background. Some people don't. It drives me nuts when I see the photos and I'm seeing cords and I see the drywall behind it or whatever. It's like, and I know that fish look better against a background, so do plants. And whether you're doing, like a lot of high-end aquascapes will frost the glass, they'll use like privacy film for a bathroom or something. Really, I think the point is making a dedicated effort of like, once I look the front glass, see whatever's in the aquarium, and then I start seeing what's behind. Have we taken effort to make that nice and clean behind it so that I'm not distracted with like, is that like fish poop on the wall? Like, what's going on back there? And instead, maybe it's frosted glass with a lighting setup to make it look like a sunrise or a sunset, or maybe it's green to look like Halloween. Or for me, even a black trash bag looks amazing. Black fabric does, black backgrounds, painting it. When you do paint, I like to use oil-based. I find it goes onto glass a little bit easier than like acrylic paints, but I've done both. So background, super duper duper important for me. Next, plants. Plants are one of my kind of always want if I can. Like Elmer's been eating plants. We tried it, so I had to put in some fake plants. You guys will see that at some point. Not a lot. The problem is that just no matter what I was doing, I was like, here's some rocks, here's some wood. Like, it needs some sprigs of something. Like it needs that green. It just looks wrong without the green. And I was looking at zoo displays and public aquariums, and every time I'd be like, yep, even just a little bit of eelgrass makes it look more visually complex and good. And most of the community fish that we keep, they can have plants. And so, yeah, you get all the benefits of them, kind of helping clean the water and all that. And they grow and you could sell them and trade them with friends and all that. But even still, just on a low level, I like to see fish and plants as opposed to just rock or wood. It's not, maybe, I guess the word is complex. It's not, my eye just goes, something's missing here. Even when it's a fish that typically would only come from rocks, I still go, wouldn't mind seeing some greenery in there. So that's a big one. And then for me, the last one I think that helps make a good aquarium, that's the easy list, a really good light, or one that looks really good. Now, I'm not going to necessarily say a brand, because I think there are lights at this point that are really good from lots of different brands. I haven't used and played with all of them, but like 2 days ago, I was playing with like one of the latest Night Crew lights, testing the par and that kind of stuff, because we're putting in our final order real soon here, the final tweaks on our latest light, and hoping to get it here in the next like 2-3 months. So everything's got dollars to light output, to color output, to build quality, to warranty, to all of that. So brands, yeah, I don't know, like disregard that and focus on the light. If you have bluefish, do you have something that's making the blue pop? Do you have redfish making the red pop? If you have plants, especially if you have red plants, the easiest way to make them look more red is have a light that has more red in it. It will intensify that red. And so, in general, my eye is different than other people's eye And I think it's nostalgia that does this to me. But growing up and going to fish stores, and this is before I owned aquariums, by the way. This is when I would see them in other people's homes, or just your family takes you to the pet store and you're just looking at pets, right? I like it to be a bit more blue, and that's a higher Kelvin. So that might be 7,000 or 10,000, somewhere in that range. A little more blue. That's the kind of light you see in hospitals and that kind of stuff. But I like that little bit extra blue. And I know some other people do too, because some people will even add like blue food coloring to their water to make it look more blue. The ocean looks blue, all of that. And you would think, knowing all of that, that I like that bluer tint, that I would love blue backgrounds, but I don't. It just doesn't work for me. But in general, I like a light to be powerful enough, but not too powerful. You can really wash fish out. If you've ever done any taking of photos, right? And you grab your phone and you put the flash on and it flashes something and it looks everything's, well, it looks like this, right? If lighting's, depending on how you play with lighting, we could make lighting, if it's too dark, right? If your light's not bright enough, now you have this look. It's not that you couldn't see me, but it's not highlighting my blue gills or whatever, right? So it's, and the hat doesn't look as green anymore, and so lighting is very important. So you turn that back on, you go, okay, well, that looks better, right? But even with just me in this camera, last time I was running it down here a little bit, you can see how you can just change the color. And if you go too bright, because a lot of people go, I'll just buy the biggest, the bestest. If you buy a Flueball 3.0 from us, a lot of people just crank that sucker on. And it's like, you don't need that much light, though. You're going to grow a lot of algae. Your fish are going to look blown out. So my face is starting to get really bright and white. And this is what they call blowout, where the light's reflecting off my skin now. Right? So this lights, if I was to use these lights at full blast, here they are. And it's too intense. It looks bad. You can see on my skin and everything, it's just blown out. So lighting is crazy important to me for aquariums, because it is visually, I keep an aquarium to visually look at it. I like the planning of it. I like the designing. I like the challenge of breeding the fish. I like keeping the ecosystem going. But at the end of the day, I love to just walk in and be like, ooh, looking good today. All right, yeah, doing good. That's the main reason I keep aquariums. Let me try to get this where I like it now that I've changed all the settings. A little too dark. We'll go right there for right now. So there's been some studies. Well, some people have been studying. I don't know if the studies have been published, but lighting effects on fish eyes and stuff, supposedly like black lights can actually make the fish go blind, supposedly, over time. It being way too bright can affect how they see and all of this. And we definitely see fish react different. When they're, if you have loaches and bottom dwellers and things and the lights are just super duper bright, right? Typically you'll see them be more reclusive. Where the light is dim, they are a little more out and about. And so, yeah, that's one of those things that if I'm trying to make a good looking aquarium, or maybe not just even a good aquarium, I want the light good enough so that I can visually see the fish. I want the plants to grow. I will also, like, even in my quarantine rooms at the store and stuff, we want the light good enough so that you can see illness. So many times well, maybe you guys don't, but I go and I see stores quarantine or, wholesalers and stuff. And I'm like, you can't even really get a good visual on the fish here. How can you possibly be taking good care of it when you have to use a flashlight and, yeah, you're trying to look at them, But it's kind of like in the middle of the night, if you have to go out in your garage and find something. Would you rather do it with all the lights on and make it easy? Or would you rather do it with a flashlight going, where is this thing? Where is the illness on this fish, right? And so, yeah, lighting, crazy important. I'm really hoping you guys are going to enjoy our light. We've been working on it pretty hard. I can't wait to tell you guys the story for how many years we've been working on it. I don't even have, from the move and stuff, I gave lights away. I don't even have all the iterations now, but I think we've gone through like 15 different lights, and probably like 10 of those are prototypes for us, where it's like, make this, change it, make it this way, change it, let's try a different style, let's try a different manufacturer. So I'll only be able to show the last few probably. But it's, and so much so, like we did I have a pallet on the next container coming that will be, I think it's 200 of them. I think I bought 200 2-foot lights, 24-inch lights that were our latest and greatest until we found the better one. And so now I don't even know what we're going to do with these 200 lights, because we know that we have a better one. And so now it's like, oh, we're waiting another 3 months. And so I don't know if I'll use them at the store. I don't know if we'll sell them cheap to members, or, maybe we'll see if one of the retail partner program stores wants to sell them. I'm not sure what we're doing with them yet. But I know, like, the next version's already better because I've designed them. I know, right? So, and it's fun to experiment with. What about more light? What about less light? What about more features? What about less features? What about more price, less price? All these little levers we can pull on. So I'm pretty stoked for this new one. All right. So yes, good aquariums, I think, are enjoyable by many people, especially yourself. They look visually pleasing, and that's different to everybody. Some people want to plant a tank, some people want biotope, some people want tannins, some people want it so planted they can't see the fish. Like, whatever your North Star is of looking good. But I do think it takes several versions, and for me personally, I really put a lot of, I'm starting to put a lot of, what do I want to call this? Priority or weight? I guess weight. I'm putting a lot of weight towards being able to travel, because I'll be at, Aquashella Dallas, I'll be at Aquashella Chicago, 99% chance. I still haven't bought the ticket. I got to do that like this weekend. But I'm going to be gone for like 2 or 3 weeks in Vivarium, and we're doing 2 different shows I think we're doing an event at Aqua Lounge. So if you're in Germany, you know where Aqua Lounge is. I think the Saturday before Vivarium, we're going to do a get-together there. So if you're in Germany, come hang out. Not a huge store, so I don't expect a huge turnout. I mean, there could be, and that'd be great for this person. But if 20 people showed up, that'd be a great time just to really hang out and have some fun. And then we're doing a Vivarium, and then after Vivarium the next day, there's another show in Germany. I don't remember the name of that, but we're doing that also. And then a couple days later, we fly back to Chicago to do Aquashella. So it's going to be a very busy few weeks, and I want to make sure that it's not too much of a burden on my wife and, maybe Bob Steenfot and that kind of stuff, because everyone, well, not everyone, but maybe you've taken care of someone else's pet, you'll do it. But what if it's like, oh, I gotta babysit your dog again? This is 7th time this year, right? So I think I'm gonna probably work on getting the load of what people have to do in the fish room down. So there's probably just feed Ladybird, and then try to maybe get rid of everything else. I don't want, I still love the ellipse for eel, but I guess I got to double down and really try to get that guy on some kind of dry food. Part of the problem with the ellipse for eel is they'll crawl right out of a hole, and so I can't even really have an auto feeder. But there might be a way Dean and I can think of it. Like, I could make a crazy system where there's a pipe that comes out of the aquarium that's like 3 feet tall, and then the auto feeder drops into there, so the fish would have to crawl 3 feet out of water, which I don't think it could do in a small, narrow thing. So I might be able to keep that, but that's the way I want to go, is like get it so the aquariums will be trouble-free and worry-free. Already I know I'm paring stuff down, so that's regardless of that, but that's what I'm looking to do. Don't forget about mounting options for your light. The 3.0 has a terrible option. I don't think so. I actually think, so I've gone through a lot of mounting options. The problem is there's no one size fits all, I think. And ease of use or getting out of the way, or I want it to be as close to the aquarium as I can. That's another thing I like. I really don't like metal legs that are kind of wobbly. I don't really love the Phoenix ones. I think the Flue Ball ones are actually pretty decent. Um, there's different hanging kits and all of that, but out of all the things that I've needed a light to do, the way it mounts is kind of the afterthought for me. So, and I don't know that, and maybe some other people could clue me in on this. Who has like who has good mounting options? It's terrible if you want any elevation to the light. I never want any elevation. That's just my reality. Is I don't want to mount it higher. The other problem is when you start mounting it higher, you have to start building different types of bracketing systems. And so what I think a lot of times happens is the public wants something that can do everything. We want a Swiss Army knife, right? We want a light that can grow plants up out of the water. We want one that can penetrate really far. We want one with the correct spread, right? So what people I think they don't realize is if you take a light that's built to have, let's say, 120-degree light spread for the LEDs, but you basically calibrate that if it's right on top of the aquarium, so it's going to spread this way and give you a spread. Now you lift that up a foot. Now you're lighting the carpet and the wall behind it, right? And so if you really wanted a light to sit above your aquarium, in my opinion, you should design a light to do that. You would have a much more, so instead of 120, maybe you crank that down to like a 70-degree angle, so it's more like a direct down part, so you'll light the plants above, or whatever you're trying to do above, and in the aquarium. But if you have a normal spread, most of the light will never even bleed down into the aquarium. So you run into these things of, wouldn't it be nice to have this product do this thing, without realizing to do it the way you want the thing to do it, you need to design a different product. And you might see things like the Aqua L plant wall that they have, the vertical garden wall. They have a light system that's kind of clever. I'm not in love with it, but it's the right move. That it's got these like two metal rods that come out of the wall, I guess, and they hold the light, and you can kind of turn the light to, and it's a narrow beam, narrowish, and you can kind of angle that to where you want. So do you want to highlight the plants above the aquarium more? Do you want to try to light just the ones down in the aquarium? There's all these little decisions to do, and yeah. So I guess my job is to design an aquarium light where, like what I think we're describing, what I've been talking about, is more of a riparium or vivarium light. And I think that's a different design because the end goal is different. Okay, I'd be evaluating light spread, light intensity, all of those things. And yeah, mounting options would be very different in that aspect. Like if I was, like, my favorite way to mount lights above an aquarium is actually to use Zoom Ed light stands. So if you've seen these, they're what are used to hang like heat bulbs and stuff for reptiles. So they've got these like metal stands that kind of slide under the aquarium, right? And then they have an adjustable riser. So now you can, if you have two of those, and I've done that in the past, that lets you adjust. That being said, you still very much run into that light bleed problem. And, if I was designing a light to do that, I would probably have, like a shop light will have reflectors. I would have angleable reflectors, kind of like studio lighting, where they'll have the barn doors, as they call them, so you can control the light. If they're out like this, it allows the light to spread. As you bring them down, though, so if your light is here, and right now the barn doors are like this, and it's hitting the carpet and the wall, if you could adjust the barn doors so that it focuses that light down. So, yeah, I mean, there's a million things to think about. The other things I would say is like, well, how do you make sure that those barn doors never rust because you might have stuff spritzing on it. Like for every decision you make, there'll be a consequence. Either price will go up, or maybe you can't make that part waterproof, or maybe water resistant, or you can't do this or that. And so I do believe that if there was the perfect light, it would exist and we would all just buy that. Instead, there's a reason why we have 100 different types of cars, because we all can't agree on what the best car is. Same with trucks, same with houses, same with everything in the world. So I'm making the best version of what I think is going to do really well in my store, really well for most hobbyists, really well in my fish room. And then there will be a category of like, well, that's not going to grow my tomato plants. And like, you're right. It's not designed to do that. It would grow tomato plants, but the spread's going to be different and all of that. All right. Interesting. Never thought about spread before. Yeah, I mean, you think a lot about it when you're going, am I going to invest like a house in Ohio to build this light? Like $150,000. And if I get it wrong and everyone thinks you've made the worst product ever, what do you do with it? So you think a lot about, and you're going, okay, well, have I tried it this way yet? Have I tried that? Have I tried this? What about this? And we're at a point where we're literally starting to put money in motion on this big project now. So we're designing packaging, which we already designed packaging once. So hopefully we can just update and change a bit. But yes, and so I wanted to address one more thing. Like raising lights, half the time people raise lights is not for growing plants and stuff up and out of the water. It's actually for reducing algae. Our light, you can adjust the brightness. So, and I don't want to give too much away, but it's going to be much more user-friendly, I think. Instead of, like with the flue ball light, you having to pull it up and like, what percentage are you running blue and red and white and this yellow and this, and what's it doing about what day? Instead, it's going to be like, yeah, I run it 2 clicks down or 5 clicks down. I think it was only 6 clicks or something. But my goal is to measure par at every click on lots of popular size tanks. I'm going to have Dean do that. I haven't talked to him about it yet, but I want to design what's the best way we could run this experiment instead of what every company does is they'll measure on one tank. You make a grid and you go, okay, at 18 inches, at this height, the par to this corner is this. Then you extrapolate out, right? And you go, well, if you had a 24-inch aquarium, if you had, this height and all of that, this is what we think the par would be. Instead, what I think a better way to do it is going to be, let's do all the standard American sizes, and then you can just know. And then you go, well, I don't have a standard American size. You can go, well, your height is somewhere between a 55-gallon and a 20-gallon. It's going to be somewhere in the middle there. You can extrapolate a little bit, going, we're probably right about here. Instead of, because there's, how thick is your substrate? Like all these things are going to matter. How much water, all that, right? How much air gap. And I think if we just make a video and a chart of real life in your aquarium settings, that is going to do far better than lumen ratings, par ratings, and things like that on a box. Let's give you the real life user experience, and then also some stats that, for the stat lovers. Thank you to Alexander and Candy for donating subscribers. If someone else did, I apologize that I missed it. I was kind of in the flow of what makes a good aquarium. So keeping fish simple, I saw you've done a couple of them. You're asking, what lights do I use in the store? I missed your other ones, but right now we use mostly on all the tanks in the store Phoenix Stingrays because we like lower light, so we're not growing way too much algae. It's hard to make a very balanced ecosystem when the fish are changing 6 times a day. As in, like, we had 100 neons, an hour later we have 80, 2 hours later we have 50, 6 hours later we have 50, the next day we have 50, the next day we have 4, right? It's hard to balance that, and so you get some algae going. So I like to keep the light low while looking good. It's still very critical that the fish need to look good. Yeah, so that's originally what the plan was with the light that the reason we have a palette of lights coming is the store expansion's going on. And someone else was asking, how's that going, right? And we wanted to make sure we set up all the new aquariums with the new lights. Makes sense, right? Like, show them off. Well, now we have all these lights, and it's like, well, that's not going to be the light we're going to sell. They are good lights, though. So it's like, what are we going to do here? And then, do we just temporarily use them? Like, we'll swap them out when we get the new light. Like, I literally don't know what we're going to do yet. So it's an interesting problem to have, I guess. Yeah, I honestly don't know what we'll do. But yeah, we use stingrays, and my full intention would be to use our new lights on every single aquarium once we import them. Because what I don't like about stingrays, they're not water resistant. So we lose a stingray probably once every 2 months. I'm not sure the exact thing, but a lot of times you'll be moving it because you're catching fish, and we do that hundreds of times a day. And once one end kind of dips in, like, oh man, okay, we got to get another one. We're pretty good about not doing that, but it's really nice with like the flue ball lights that we do use on the Planet tanks, right? So any of the show tanks, Murphy's tank, plant sales tanks, all that, they can get wet, no problem. And so I tested like the light that we're gonna have made. I put it underwater for 20 minutes. Water does get inside, with just like the flue ball, but still working as of today. So, it's been several days. And so I recommend don't get your light super wet. However, it's resistant enough that at least 20 minutes underwater so far. I haven't put it to the test. I will. I only have a few of these prototypes. So when I get more, we'll go, could it go a day? Could it go 5 days? Like, when does it finally go and doesn't work? But for now, at least 20 minutes. That's more than enough for, oops, it got wet. Okay, we're okay here. I'm not, I don't want it to be a $10,000 light and be like, it can go under there forever. The goal is to keep this very economical. All right. Goodie bags for Aquashella Dallas. As far as I know, we're giving away shirts, and I'm not sure what we're giving away yet for members. We could do sweatpants again. We might have some other ideas, but yeah, make sure you show up. Other question was paint. Is it annoying to have the light sit on top of the tank? Well, in a fish store and kind of at home, I always want my lights brought to the front. So in a fish store, especially, what happens is people walk up to the tanks, the fish come forward like they're going to get fed. If you leave the light in the middle of the tank, so let's talk about spread again, right? And I'm going to do a whole video on lighting because lighting is so important for aquariums, just to even look good. So if your light's in the middle of the aquarium and the spread's like this, right? It might hit 3/4 of the way down on that aquarium. Like, here's where the light's hitting, but your fish are up here trying to get fed, right? So they look very dull and not very good. When you pull that light forward, though, now you do get that full color. The downside is you typically get more algae growing on the front, right? And in Dean's fish room and other places, in my fish room too, you can actually see the line of where the light will hit, and like on the 800 gallon, stuff like that. So in general at the store, our goal is you open up, you catch the fish, you put the top back on, you pull the light back to the front. And it shows off the merchandise as best as possible. It's kind of like a car dealership where they're cleaning the cars every week, just like you're not going to sell a dirty car. Same thing. You're not going to sell a fish when it doesn't look very good. And so it also makes it easier to spot any illnesses and stuff like that. Keeping Fish Simple also asked, other question was paint. Oil-based? Yeah, we use oil-based. I just find it applies easier. So I buy, normally when I'm doing aquariums, I do Rust-Oleum oil-based black paint. I just put it into the thing with a roller, and I'll do 100 aquariums at a time, do all the backs. By the time I get back to the first one, it's probably dry, flip it to a side, do all the sides. Then usually I'll let that sit overnight. Then I'll do that last side because even though it's pretty dry, it might be tacky. And if you put it on a newspaper or something like that, while it's a little bit tacky, you're not going to be happy when you pull it back up. So yeah, building the sweatpants. Good Lord. So trying to say building a store from America to Australia with tips, and then I read sweatpants at the same time. Maybe keeping fish simple will be the first retail partner program for Australia or our international. We're loving the retail partner program. Do I have any advice on starting a fish club? You could talk to, what is she going by in here? Is it Sarah Woodring? I think so. She just started one. And on the forum, there's a couple of posts about it where I've detailed some pretty long lists of things. But for the most part, it's like, it's kind of a thankless job. Everyone knows how to do it better than you do. But you'll find some super friends. And long term, it will work out if you put enough time and energy. Think of it like starting a business where you'll never make money, but it'll be that much work. The reward comes in, hey, we have a local club now, and maybe someday you'll get to pass that on and it will go well and you can just enjoy. That being said, you're like 7 to 8 years worth of work to pull that off. I've used Plasti-Dip. Yep, I've got a whole video on how to Plasti-Dip backgrounds on aquariums. Also works pretty good. Just a little more expensive, and I don't find it, like if I need to do 100 aquariums, Plasti-Dipping them, with the spray kind at least, takes too long. I know they have some, like we've done some tables and stuff for our plant prep area with Plasti-Dip, like roll-on stuff. I've never tried that on the back of an aquarium, so I don't know the roll-on part, is it too runny or not? I've only done plant prep tables that we had to make. So, yeah. Sarah says, we're having our second meeting on Sunday. Well, there you go. She's 2 meetings into it. It's definitely a lot of work, but could be super rewarding long term. I'm acclimating a new Shodanai puffer. I'm so excited. Any tips? Just don't get lazy with snails and that kind of stuff. It's easy to fall in love with a fish. You love it to death for the first year. Year 2, like, well, it'll be fine if it, maybe I'll just get some snails next week. And you get lazier and lazier as you go on. And that's where you start getting into those problems. And so, if you do get lazy with it, move it on. I move mine to Dean. Dean will probably move it on to someone else. Like take care of pets that you really enjoy every day. By the way, time to sell you some stuff. The new Aquarium Co-Op Hat. Randy was like, should we even announce this? We've been releasing new stuff for the summer all last week. And I was like, this is a summer hat. We may as well release it. And I'm going to wear it all the time because it's super cool. What you probably can't see is this Aquarium Co-op part, or the aquarium part, is super raised up. It feels ultra premium. It's kind of like chain stitching on like a shop member jacket or something, but it sticks out. Let me see if I can hide behind it like a lot. It's super cool. And then this is like standard low key embroidery where it's like, but this is like 1/4 of an inch thick or something. It's super cool. A little more expensive to make these hats, but man, I am liking it quite a bit, honestly. It's my go-to has always been the Murphy hat. Now I'm going to rotate between these two because I'm enjoying this one. So, and then also I didn't have one last week to show you. Let me open the baggie. Get that new floating keychain smell. The Aquarium Co-op floater boater keychain. For some reason, I think the picture we have on, I want to look this up right now because I thought it was going to be bigger. Let me see this. I want to see it in someone's hand. Oh, I think we didn't put that picture up, but I swear I saw it in Jimmy's hand, and this thing looked giant. I think Jimmy just has smaller hands than I do. So, because I was like, man, how are you going to fit that in a pocket? But this is totally pocketable. So, pretty cool. I don't know that everybody needs one of these, but definitely people are like, yeah, I need one. I think it's going to end up being kind of like more like the Aquarium Co-op freak flag of like it goes on a backpack or your luggage and that kind of stuff. And people are like, oh my gosh, Aquarium Co-op fan. As opposed to how many of us own boats? I don't. Like that's yeah. But maybe I'll have, and I don't take keys when I go to like Peru or anything either. But I could hand them out to people on the boat at Peru if I go. Like there's got to be a boat key somewhere. There's probably something better to like connect to a GoPro or something. I don't know. There's probably other uses I'm not thinking about for these either. I need to make a little boat out of it. But these things are like $5. These hats are like $30. But it honestly, I pushed back originally because it's a Richardson hat. I think it's actually made in America, I believe. And they were more expensive. And I was like, yeah, but people don't want to pay more for hats. But now that I'm actually wearing this thing, I'm like, this thing's actually pretty good. And I don't even like it. I'm not a snapback guy, but I'm still liking it. Too bad the EU can't buy stuff from the co-op store. I know. We're looking into it. Trust me. I'm up to my eyeballs in this international stuff between stuff going slightly wrong and testing and reading rules. Like to get into the UK, I have to open up a bank account in the UK just for their VAT, their taxes, right? So there's all these little things of like, what else do we got to manage? You know, we have to collect those ones where like in Canada, we don't have to collect it. I'm jumping through hoops as fast as I can without making too many, hopefully horrible mistakes. So it's on the timeline of like, yeah, let's do it. Because what you guys don't know, we're actually losing money each day shipping to Canada. With the program we have to give $50 every day, regardless if we ship anything. We actually spent time yesterday looking in to see if the website was broken because nobody had placed any. So what was weird is we were doing the announcement and we had like some promotion or paying for some advertising on Facebook and everything. And orders were like, oh yeah, like 5 to 10 Canadian people a day. And then we went 2 days without a single order. So we started spending time like, did the website break somehow? And then I placed an order and it worked. And then like an hour later, someone else placed an order and now orders are going through again. But like somehow all of Canada was like, oh, it's Wednesday and Thursday? Oh, we do not order on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Everybody knows that. It was kind of weird. So definitely working on it and just making sure we don't accidentally break things and, making it work. Like we know that we're tracking the stuff in New Zealand. We sent a package. So we sent packages to New Zealand, Australia. We sent them to the Netherlands as well. Maybe somewhere in Germany. We're definitely, testing. Casting our line out there, seeing what happens, documenting process, seeing where stuff could potentially go wrong, trying to give people realistic expectations of delivery times the best we can. So, yeah. Just got my first red Thai bee shrimp. Tiny, but so pretty. Yeah, I'm gonna be keeping some more shrimp and stuff soon, I think. I brought some plants home to start setting up a shrimp tank. It's only gonna be cherry shrimp, but I love cherry shrimp. Crazy. Zoom jury duty in 20 minutes? Is that a thing? I mean, I guess that's the best version of jury duty. Like, if you just get to sit at home and, like, watch YouTube. Because the one time, I think I've only had to go once. And I had to sit in the jury pool. It was like hours of just sitting there, like, hating life while you're waiting for, like, the next case. And you're like, did I get selected for this one? No. And then eventually, like, at noon or 1, they're like, all the cases, they've selected the juries, go home. We'll let you know tonight if you got to come back for more of this. And I think it was only like a couple of days, but way better. If I was just sitting here on YouTube, like, am I selected? No? All right, I'm getting lunch. That type of stuff. UK VAT is so much fun. Yeah, the new rules for Brexit and everything, it's kind of like, so imagine there's like a lot of rules, right? And it's doable. And you're like, okay, yeah, we're going to start shipping internationally. And then someone takes the rule list and runs it straight through a paper shredder twice so it cross cuts it, and now all the rules are in strips this big. Now they hand you the bag back and they're like, great, figure it out. That's Brexit right now. Of like, you could literally like email someone, they're like, yeah, I need to see if that's how that works. Like, what do you mean? You're the authority. Yeah, but we just changed the rule like 7 minutes ago. So I got to see how this is supposed to play out. And yeah. So we're taking it slow and steady, but it's like I'm still waiting. So I told you guys last week I was waiting on an email from Canada on, hey, what do we got to do to get authorized to move pet foods from America to Canada? No response yet. So I can only move as fast as we can obtain information, and so far it's been fairly slow for obtaining it. What's my favorite Amazon River Basin plant? I'm not even sure I could honestly name an Amazon River Basin plant. Let me think if I've even seen a single aquatic plant, true one that we keep in the hobby, in Peru yet. I don't think so. Because where we go is where the forests are flooded, and so it's like land vegetation. Because that's like, there's always jokes being made like, no one's ever seen an Amazon sword like in the Amazon, because I don't even know where they are, like of the crews we go with. So I don't know that I can be like, I can tell you like, oh, this palm frond that stabs me in the leg all the time, or don't grab onto it because you'll be crying. I can point out plants like that, but in terms of stuff that actually makes it to our aquarium, I don't think we're seeing much at all when we're actually in those waters. Which is kind of cool, but also kind of sad on one hand, because I would love to show some of that stuff off. Love to be a guinea pig for shipping. The best thing you can do there is hang out on the forum. That's where we'll reach out and we'll ask, like, hey, we need people. Like, we might be like, hey, I need 2 people from France. Who wants something, right? So if you're hanging out on the forum, that's where we'll reach out, because it's kind of too hard to, I can reach out on YouTube, right? And then I'd have to give you an email. And then 10,000 people see the email. And now you have 150 people going, I want free stuff in France. Like, no, we just needed 2. And we need to know, we need to converse and work through that. So I have a hang-on back and a CO2 diffuser. Should I place the diffuser under the outflow of the hang-on back or somewhere else? My goal when I'm using CO2 is to get it my goal is to get it to be in the water as long as possible so it dissolves. So that's either as low as it can go in an aquarium, or sometimes I'll also put it in the inlet of a hang-on back, which will probably make it, fail 1 year earlier, but something on AquaClear, it's like, okay, it'll fail in year 29 instead of year 30. But yeah, as long as I can keep it in the water and get those bubbles smaller to dissolve better, that's my main goal. I don't think it matters a whole lot as long as you have decent flow in your aquarium and you're trying to dissolve as much as you can before it hits that top. After that, it's optimizing. It's kind of like trying to optimize the way you eat a sandwich. You're like, if I eat it, like let's say you got a foot-long sandwich and most people eat it this way. You're like, what if I eat this way, right? And you're like, I shaved 2 seconds. Like, is that even a thing you should be doing? And CO2 comes down to that too. A lot of times, like, do you have CO2 in the aquarium? You're at 98% of efficiency. Oh, you really want to spend the next 6 years of your life getting that extra 2%? You could just do anything else in your aquarium to get better results, probably. Is natural sunlight the best fish coloration? It's different. I do think fish look different when they're actually getting sunlight. Shrimp for sure do that. I like lighting fish up from the side. They look really good, but it changes the way they look. So some fish will look better top down lit. Some will look better side lit. And I think what's nice about sunlight is you get all of that. Sometimes at high noon, they're right above, right? And then as the sun's setting, now you're getting the light going this way. But also I've got the same problem in my pond, like, oh, what time is it? Oh yeah, it's the time where the glare is so bad I can't see any of my fish. That's what time it is. If you ever want to know how things ship to the devil's armpit, aka Texas, I'm here for y'all. That's about right. Yeah. It is really hot, by the way, in some places. We're caught in this catch-22 of like it's harder to ship plants. 85% of the time is going to be fine. 15% of the time is going to be a problem. So it's still worth it for us to ship. We just ask people like, if you order plants to the devil's armpit and it's 182 degrees outside, try not to let it sit in your mailbox for a day and a half. Like when the mailman shows up, go grab it. Yeah. The other thing to remember is a lot of these plants, they'll be grown out of water in crazy hot temps. So when we go to Peru and you do see, you do see plants, it's real hot out. So they can handle it, but it's when they get way too hot. And that's what people don't realize is like, have you ever left like a water bottle in your car and then you go do something, you come back in a few hours, like this water is crazy hot. That's what can happen when you're sitting in a metal mailbox and you're just cooking. Even though it's only a hundo outside, it might be 250 degrees in that mailbox. That's probably an exaggeration, but it can get stupid hot. And that's where things that are alive don't like it. They don't like being cooked alive. So, trying to keep your mailbox in the shade and all of that, all those things help. Love the pink-tail Celsius you brought from Peru. Finding that coloration is hard. Reds, yes, and pinks, no. Yeah, I've always known them as the pink-tailed Celsius, but you're right. Sometimes they're a little more red. I think you would just call like let's say we're gonna buy from the Wet Spot in Oregon. Maybe give them an email or a call and be like, hey, are these actually pink or are they red? I'm being talked about right now by Randy. I told him I was going live, and here I am. Changing wording on the website. We changed it earlier today to remind people that customer to pay any import duties to customs. Now, should we change the messaging to fees? Because fees encompasses more. Because there's technically, like in Canada right now, I think you pay a duty and a tax. Yeah, we're basically just trying to go like, look, if customs says you owe them some money, pay it. But like 9 out of 10 packages, they don't ask for money. So that's the way that works. What do you do if your planted tank soil starts turning to dust? Most people replace it. After 2 to 3 years of planted substrate like that, it tends to break down. And then people usually replace it. That's one of the things I don't like about it and why you see almost no aquarium of mine ever use it. I'm usually, my goal is normally to never tear down an aquarium. Now, it just so happens I end up rearranging the fish room or something like that. But someday, I'm going to have an aquarium that doesn't have to move within 2 or 3 years or change. And I'll love that the substrate's not breaking down. Like, I think the longest running aquariums that I have that would be like Murphy's tank, maybe the 90-gallon in the store. Like, they've run the same substrate for a long time. Like Murphy's tank, it's probably like 6 or 7 years. Where if we were to use a substrate like that, one, it wouldn't be good because pufferfish blow and that's a mess. But if that wasn't a problem, we'd still have to get in there and replace all that probably at year 3. And that's probably like $1,000 worth of substrate every 3 years for a tank that size. Whereas the substrate we have in there right now will be good forever. Any suggestions for plants in a Vieja? I can never remember how to say that. Or a blood parrot tank. They munch them all. I would give one attempt for like some hornwort probably, because fish usually don't like the taste of that. And if they munch that up, then we would go ahead and just do fake plants. That's what I would do. Could I cap aqua soil with gravel and get the same benefits of the aqua soil? Yeah, for the most part. Well, the problem is when you have when it's exposed to the water, it releases the ammonia and everything in the water, and that will fuel stem plants a little better. If you cap it, you wouldn't have that same thing going on. But for the most part, yes, you're mostly doing it to drive the roots on plants anyway, and so you'd get like that. Oh yeah, you're getting 80% of the value out of it. But even then, the top layer of that substrate after about 2 or 3 months stops releasing the ammonia, and that's why you have to cycle those plant substrates longer. And yeah, used to have mirrors behind my aquarium that hid all the cords, but got tired of cleaning the watermarks. They used to make, I've seen them, they used to make aquariums where the back panel was a mirror. I've never been able to like buy them and sell them in the store or anything, but like I've seen them. I was like, wow, that's kind of, and then I kind of go like, I wonder if that drives fish nuts or not. I don't know, but it was kind of cool. What's the best solution for de-snailing live plants after purchase? No idea. I don't de-snail. I welcome every snail with open arms, give them a hug, and say, thanks for coming along, little buddy. Now get to work eating algae and fish poop and decaying leaves for me. And then they go, yes, sir, will do, sir. I love snails. There's a big long thread on the forum on different ways to do it. They're doing it with CO2. But I personally don't make recommendations on how to do that because I watch most people screw it up and just kill their plant. And so for me, it's like, how do I kill this thing that's super beneficial while not killing this other thing that's super beneficial? And I'm like, what if we just don't kill either of them? Salt dip, I highly do not recommend. Money cannot buy larger Java Fern for my 125. Any recommendations up there online? Money is no option. So here's what I would, how big? But in general, planted goldies, what I would look for, I know we used to be able to get it. I know we don't have it right now. And maybe that's something I'm going to write that down. Hold on, hold up. Maybe we'll get back in the business of trying to do limited sales on mother plants. And they're expensive, right? So, and this is like 8 years ago. But bigger Anubias, bigger Java Ferns and Crypts, and they would be the bigger like 4+ inch pots. But depending on the species and with shipping now, they might be like 40 or 50 bucks at this point. But you could get pretty big stout plants. The problem to remember, and I think this is why we kind of stopped selling them, is a lot of people don't realize that when you buy a plant that's this big and it's been growing out of water, it's still going to die back because it has to convert. Now, you'll have big root systems, but most people go, you sold me a bad plant and it died. And it's like, yes, but whether it was this potted plant or this potted plant, the process is the same. You just thought by buying this big plant, you're skipping the process. And that's not what happens because they're still all grown up out of water. So if we built the right page with the right videos and everything, we could probably get most people through where only 10% of people go, you sold me a bad plant. And that's probably still too much because after 5%, I cut everything off. So, but if we do our job right, we could probably reintroduce those. But I would look for what's called a mother plant of Java Fern, and they should be pretty expensive, but I would also have high hopes that they're actually pretty darn big. And if me personally, if I'm playing the role of money is no object, I want what I want, darn it. And let's say you go, hey, I'm going to buy 6 of these things. They're 60 bucks a piece. I definitely be like, hey, please take a photo. And if they're awesome, I'll buy 8, right? But I don't want to be like, oh, I wasted, I spent $400 on plants that were not worth it. Yeah, salt dip killed your plants. Yeah, I highly recommend not mixing salt dips with plants. I know other people have done it. I know they even claim it works. All I'm saying, I couldn't more strongly recommend don't salt dip your plants. Yeah. So I wouldn't do it. There are other people that would. From a guy that spends, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on plants a year, I would never submit them to salt willingly. Will the viejas eat crinums? That might work. Crinums might work. Bulbitis possibly. That being said, those are both kind of expensive plants to play with. I feel like if they don't eat the hornwort, that would be a good sign to try, like that next layer of like still hardy plants, a little more expensive though. Aquarium Co-op are the only plants remaining in my tanks? Well, that sucks. I mean, it's great for us, but it's never good to hear. People would assume I only want people's money, but the reality is I just want people to enjoy the hobby. If you enjoy the hobby, eventually you'll spend money with us. And I never like it's almost like a backhanded, thing somehow of like, well, I don't want to hear that the other people's plants didn't make it for you. Like that sucks. That means you wasted money. Like, dang it. And that's also why I tell you guys, if you own a filter, just use that. If you need to buy a filter, great, buy ours. But if you own one, don't waste more money. Like every filter on the planet will filter water. Purely buy ours if you needed another one, or you really love the way ours works and it's going to save you time and frustration. But if you can't keep a fish alive with someone else's filter, by switching to ours, it isn't going to be magic. We might educate you better, but you should be able to take the education for free and apply it to your filter and save the money. And then if you want to spend money, buy a hat or a keychain or a plant or something else you need. But yeah, part of my ethos is let's not ruin the world by throwing away another filter when they basically all work, unless you can actually see the benefit, the tangible benefit you'll get. It's not worth alienating other products and stores and all that for our benefit. It'll all work out in the end. Are the Casa Wi-Fi timers easy to use? I would say yes. Let me make sure I'm not going to like give away the farm here, but I run a lot of them. Oh, my login expired. I just updated my password. Let's see if it'll let me do it. Oh, now I have to relog in. I run like between the store, the warehouse, and my fish room, we probably run like 50 of these things. And I can set one up in under 2 minutes. The first time, yeah, the hardest part is like you have to get it on your Wi-Fi network, and that just means you have to close the app, open up your settings, connect to it. But it's very easy in my opinion. We have videos and articles and all that stuff on how to help you. If you can work a cell phone and make it connect to if you've ever been able to connect to another device, highly likely you'll have no problems. Do I think pink crypts will be back? At some point, yes, but it's still like I went to Tropica/Generale Farm and they might have had 500,000 plants. They had like 25 pink crypts. That's it. So it's still not widely produced. Third 3-month member chat. I love my Java fern and it keeps sprouting babies off the leaves. I know that's a good sign, but it looks awful. Yeah, I embrace the jungle look. How do I recommend treating water for chlorine in an auto water change system? I haven't really had to deal with that. We've had very low levels of chlorine, but if I would buy if you're not treating that much, like you don't have that many aquariums, buy yourself what they call an RV like chlorine filter. They're like 20, maybe with inflation and stuff now, maybe they're 25 or 30, I don't know. But they're like this tube. You screw it onto the end of a hose. That'll dechlorinate it real time for like, they do like 20,000 gallons or something. Otherwise, if you're like, hey, I got a whole fish room and like the whole thing's auto water change, because I could have put that in line. Like my first fish room was only like 50 aquariums and smaller ones. And so I could have put that in line. I was using hoses to run some of that stuff, so that would have worked. But if I was going to run a whole fish room like my fish room right now and I had chlorine, I would do like one of these 4-foot tall canisters that's just filled with like bamboo charcoal or something that has to get back flushed every once in a while, and maybe it has to get replaced every 5 years or something. But what I would do is I would set up like a monthly test where I get some tap water out, I test it, no chlorine, great. Do that once a month, and you might find like, oh, the way I use it went 15 years or something. I know some people have gotten some really long times out of some of those filters, but it will definitely matter how much chlorine and other junk is in your water that it has to pull out to begin with on how long of a span you'll get out of that. So I love pest snails. I need that hat. I love pest snails. I never seem to get any on plants, so I ended up ordering them online. Yeah, well, like we don't do anything to specifically get rid of snails on ours. We do introduce narite snails, stuff like that, to our warehouse tanks just to help clean up algae and stuff that like a leaf might fall off. We want them to munch on that. They literally help us do our job. So I noticed cheaper Wi-Fi timers often are not as well supported. Yes. So do know this, that I fell in love with Casa Wi-Fi timers years ago before we ever sold them. And I specifically remember a story where I told Joel, who's working at the warehouse, right, or working at the store right now, buy these ones, they're dope. Instead, he buys like a 6-pack, saves some money of another brand, and like cannot get that app to work. And I'm like, I told you, buy these ones. I've been down that road. I'm a guy that's probably tried 7 different brands of Wi-Fi timers over my years, and they always kind of sucked. Whether they were the Wemo brand or like any version of them, like, oh, it's got to have a thing, or I got to have a controller, or oh, the app's not so good, it's doing this, doing that, whatever. The Casa ones just work. We sell them, and we make like, I don't know, I think it's like $1.50. We don't make almost any money, but it makes it easy for you guys to just buy the ones that I know will work and not make Candy's life hell when you're like, hey, this thing's not working. Corey said buy this. When we know you buy the one we sell, we go, hey, look at this video. Look at this article. It will work. We know it works. It works really well. It remembers after the power goes out. All of these great things. I love them. I've killed some plants with alum too. I've had the best luck with Java Fern, Anubias, Crypts, and Swords. You know how I don't kill plants? I don't put anything on them. I put good old aquarium water. I think people worry way too much about what could I possibly bring in with this plant instead of just going, if something does come in, we'll take care of it later. We'll use a fish to do it. We'll use a snail to do it. We'll figure it out. People, I watch people become crazy about their plants, and then they're literally like barely quarantine a fish. And you're like, you realize it just pooped out blackbeard algae. You're going to have blackbeard algae now, right? So run the stuff the way you want it to. I'm just saying I don't quarantine any plants outside of if, let's say you got plants from a known sick tank. I don't put that straight into another tank with fish. That would be not smart. However, I don't think I've really run into, the worst I've run into would be like some hydra. And then you're like, oh yeah, you put some sparkling gouramis in there and they eat it. Or you use flubendazole, you get rid of it. That being said, the amount of damage I watch people do to their plants while they're trying to get them clean and sterile, typically they're way better off or way worse off for it. Nature is anything but sterile. There's a bug munching on it. There's stuff landing on it. All that kind of stuff all day long out in nature, and it shrugs it off for the most part. So, yeah. Like if you honestly, here's the thing. If you really, really wanted to sterilize your plants, grow them all immersed with no water. So order them up, convert them, grow them all immersed, right? And then convert them back again. So you would buy the potted plants, you'd get them in, you'd grow them, you'd take the stem plant, you'd cut it all, you'd go plant that into the aquarium water. Everything that was living there would die off, including all that plant will die back. You'll have the roots, it'll regrow back. That's how you would do it. But no one's going to do that because, like, oh, that's too much work. Isn't there like an easy solution to do this? And the reality is there isn't. If there was, we would do it. That's the thing that I think people forget about is we make millions of dollars every year selling plants. If it was as simple as like just alum dip them, I'd use the crew of 10 people unboxing plants and we would alum dip every single one of them. The problem is that kind of stuff doesn't work at scale and plants aren't better off for it. There's a big difference between I killed my plant and my plant is thriving. There's a whole thing in between. You know, there's it went through an alum dip or a bleach bath or a hydrogen peroxide bath or whatever, and then struggled and made it. And there's another path of like doing that, and then we shipped it and then it died, or I went a little too heavy-handed and it died today. So, yeah, it's the reality is try and run a clean system, which we do, right? We're running UV sterilizers, we're running snails, we're running fish that don't get swapped out. All these things run a clean system because for the most part, all the plants you're buying were grown out of water. So there shouldn't be too many things that could contaminate your aquarium. It's when they then land at the store or the warehouse like ours that they could pick something up. We do a lot to run the systems clean to begin with. Now, if you buy some backyard, who knows where plant person, could they be running a pretty dirty setup? The answer is yes, they could. But it's in their best interest to not do that. So I think it kind of really cropped up when it was very popular 15, 20 years ago to get plants off other hobbyists. They'd be free, just pay shipping. You might get them with duckweed and other stuff. And because the person might have 2 aquariums, that doesn't mean they have a facility with 100 aquariums with people being paid and doing maintenance and making their livelihood on it. So it was kind of easier to sneak something in. You'd have the pros that would never have anything wrong ever at all with it. Then you'd have people that are like, hey, you want some free plants? Here they are. And I think everyone aspires to, I want the cleanest possible plant thinking that's best. Everyone wants, the best. But at the fear of possibly making it worse to begin with, right? I like to give the plants a chance to thrive first. That's my thinking. Which I realize is the opposite of fish, by the way. Because I'm like, hey, treat them with meds first. That being said, I think fish have way more illnesses and parasites and things than plants ever do. So I think there's a clear pattern there to lift some insight from. I'm slowly converting all switches and outlets in my house to CASA products. Me too. Even most of my light switches in the fish room and in my house are CASA switches. So one of my favorite things, we get into bed, the wall light's on, and now it's not, right? And we do the dimmer one, so we can dim and make it brighter. And so like another use case, we don't even sell this product, but this is how much I love this product, the switches. In our bathroom, right? In our bedroom. Full strength during the day, but at night, you turn it all the way down. So that way, if you got to get up in the night, in the middle of the night to pee, and you turn that light on, it's not like, oh, whoa, it's too bright. And then my favorite part is when the light's low, once you're done going pee, you come back out and you can actually see in your bedroom again. You're not just like, oh, gosh, it's too dark, stub my toe. Because it's not going from crazy bright to dark, you're going from dim to dark a lot better. So I don't even sell that product, but yes, we use them at the warehouse. We use them at the store. We use them in my fish room. good products. At least of today. You know, everything always can age badly. 10 years from now, this guy says Casa is a good thing. It turns out they're burning people's houses down. Like, as of today, the way we use them, we like them. Who knows in 10 years? We just got done for a week. Wait, we were just gone for a week for our daughter's wedding, and the Casa camera I bought at your recommendation gave me such peace of mind. Yeah, I use those cameras too. They're cheap. I actually have one right now. So I have one, like, if someone's going to drive up, I can see it. Yeah. So I just have it sitting up on an iPad, little iPad mini when I'm not using it. The reason I have an iPad mini is so I can test website bugs. Someone says this is broken on an iPad. Well, if I don't have an iPad here, I can't test it. So when I'm not doing that, I can look out the window that I have the shade drawn. I wanted to say hello and thanks for all the knowledge, entertainment, and encouragement your content gives, especially switching me on to multis. Multifasciatus, it's fun fish. Where can I find Fluwell 3.0 Co-op suggested pro settings? It appears the auto settings are just too much for the 29. We don't have any official Corey recommends this setting. That being said, there is a whole giant programming thread on the forum where a bunch of other people give their recommendations. The problem is if I go, I suggest this, there's 400 armchair warriors who'll be like, let me tell you why you're wrong for that setting. And then there's going to be 1,000 people going, I did what you said and it's not working the way you said it would work. In general, what I recommend is not using the nighttime setting. So I don't want the blue LEDs on at night because that really encourages the algae growth in my experience. Other than that, I like turning down the lights quite a bit. People on average, they go, crank it because I'm going to get everything I paid for in this light. And, you know, to me, that's like a water heater, right? Just because you bought a brand new water heater doesn't mean like, let's have this thing on 11. If I want hot water, I'm going to have it, right? And then you have someone burn themselves. Instead, I think it's like, well, how about you just set it to where you need it? Like, oh, on average, you need setting 1. Leave it on setting 1. Even though one time out of the year you want to take a shower for 6 hours, leave it on setting 1. And I think light's the same way. Like, just because it can, you know, burn these plants with an insane amount of light doesn't mean you need that much light. There's a whole spectrum. This light is meant to handle all these sizes of tanks. So whether you have, you know, a 3-foot tank that's this deep, this deep, this deep, this deep, it's meant to handle them all. And so in general, the shorter your tank is, the more you should reduce that light. In general, I never ran, well, I shouldn't say never. Most of the lights don't run more than about 50 to 60% that I run. Now, on the plant growing tanks at the warehouse, we do run them at 100%. We also have them lifted much higher, right? And people usually don't know or forget that every 4 inches you raise a light, whether it's your aquarium is 4 inches deeper or you're just raising above the water, it's half as much light that gets to the plants. So we have them, you know, like over a foot above our tanks. And so we have them at full power and we have to run multiple lights to get the right lighting. If we let them sit on top of the aquarium, we could get away with one light. The problem is that slows down picking and packing in the warehouse. So that's why we don't do that. Any thoughts on dwarf gourami disease? Love the fish, but concerned about the health. I don't think we've ever run into it. And we sell lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of gouramis. I'm sure there could be certain suppliers that have it or something like that, but I don't run into it on a daily basis. And so I don't think it's as prevalent. Usually a disease will have an outbreak and it might run its way through the farms and run its way through the wholesalers, and all of those key people go, oof, that cost me a lot of money. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again. And then it doesn't nearly come back to the hobbyist level as much at all. And so I think that's where we're at right now, of like, we're not really seeing it, but it still exists. And for the most part, if something is sick and there's a disease called the thing that's sick disease, well, that must be what it is, right? So once, you know, the Gourami disease became a thing, all Gouramis have it. Once neon tetra disease became a thing, all neon tetras have it. cardinal tetra disease, angelfish disease. So you have koi AIDS, angelfish AIDS, discus AIDS. You have all these things that are epidemics, or at least things that really spread and wiped out a bunch. Professionals go, hey, we just lost tens of thousands or hundred thousands of dollars to make sure that never happens again. And it's unlikely for that to trickle down. Now, that might be a 2-year process to go from it's everywhere to it's nowhere. But in general, things like Gourami disease, like, well, I've only been in the hobby 15 or whatever years, and that's always been on like top of mind for everybody. And yet I've never seen it in person. Now, I'm not a vet and all that, and maybe I miss it every single time. And so maybe I'm oblivious to it. But we also don't have a bunch of customers going, hey, you're missing that your Gouramis have Gourami disease. We don't see that either. This big hat fits big heads. And the reason I know that is because when I go to like Lids, the store, I have to ask them, do you even have hats that are at least 7 3/4? Because that's my head size. And usually they're like, we have these 2 hats. And I'm like, yeah, that ain't going to work. And so 7 3/4 still has, you could expand it 2 more, right? So I don't know if it goes to like 8 1/4. If I was probably better at being a hat specialist, I would know that. But in general, I have a giant melon, and it fits me, and it fits me better than the Flex Fit. The Flex Fit hats that we sell, even the extra large, they're tight on my giant melon, and they have to stretch out. So this is already not, like, it's a new hat, obviously, and I'm not having to force it onto my melon to stretch out. And it's got some breathing room there. So if you're a giant-headed dude like myself, you should be fine. That being said, I'll put this out there. If you buy the hat and your head is bigger than this hat can go, we'll refund you, because then we'll know. I'll go, hey, what's your hat size? Okay, can't do 12 inch, or size 12 or whatever it's going to be. So, but yes, my head's big enough that normally an average hat store goes, sorry, we don't carry giant freak-sized hats. And I go, yeah, I know. It will fall on my face. I have a tiny head. That's right. It can go fairly small. I don't know who has a tiny head in our crew, but like everybody got one of these hats, and I mean, I guess if you're a child, right? But it can go pretty small. Like it's this big now, and you can do that thing where you just like put it way over. That's why you guys come here, right? You come here for the giant head hat tactics, not aquariums, but yeah. Miracle moss balls, when will they be legal again? I don't know. I saw a bunch of them in Europe, and so I actually tasked Randy with like, hey, ask our farms. And they said they've been trying recently, and they still can't get them in. So they're still fighting with customs and stuff. So that could be like, yep, they've given up, or it could be like, we're fighting hard every day. I mean, there's a lot of money in the moss ball game for chain stores and all that. So I do think it's in their best interest they're trying. So it's wait and see. Oh, I know what they told me. They told me that the last time they ordered like a butt ton of moss balls, there was one, if I read the email, I believe they said there was one moss ball that had one mussel shell on it that wasn't alive. And that like reset of like, nope, not bringing them in. So, maybe they'll try again whenever that, that time period is up or whatever. Hats are usually too big. We do have the small flex fits too, but this is a one size fits all. And if it doesn't fit, if it's too big, you get yourself one of our coarse sponge pads. You cut yourself a little strip. You just sew that right into the back there, so that way you got that nice, cool sponge action. It's like custom fitting an intake sponge to your canister filter. Sometimes you gotta do that for your hat if you're in the tiny head crew. Shout out to Dustin at the Fish Room in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Just picked up all my supplies and supported a local store at the same time. Good. Glad to hear. It's been going pretty well for the retail partner stores, even in the summer. So I'm really excited to see how the Christmas season goes. They're excited from as the feedback I'm getting, right? And you never know, right? Maybe to my face or to us, they're like, yeah, it's going great. But maybe behind the scenes, they're like, how dare they? We hate this company. But one of them was so shocked that we're shipping so quickly. And we go, yeah, we order from the same people you do. We know how bad they are at it. We want to make sure we're not that. And they're like, wow, that's refreshing. And I go, that's because I still believe that a wholesaler like us, well, not that we're a wholesaler, but wholesalers don't need to exist long term. And in the next 20 years, probably more pet stores will be set up just like us, where we're making our own products and all that kind of stuff. But if we are going to fulfill that role of like the middleman, our responsibilities, and I always get on to our wholesalers about this, like your job, the reason you exist is to have it in stock and buy in huge quantities to get the best deals and store it so that we can order as much or as few as we want. And then your job is to get it to us. You only have 2 responsibilities, and most of them fail at both of them. They don't have enough in stock, or they're out of stock for long periods of time. And then when you order it, we treat our retail partner stores like customers. Shocking, I know, right? So when they order it, our goal is to ship it out same day or next day. Whereas like when we order from like a Fluval, we place an order on average 2 to 3 weeks before they're even like, yeah, we should probably think about shipping that out. I don't understand running a business like it's so simple. If every day you have a crew there that ships stuff, get caught up so when someone places an order, you ship it the next day instead of you're 3 weeks behind, and so now there's just a lag time that makes you seem bad. I have 2 $50 orders for Canada on Wednesday, so you met your quota. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Ooh, one thing that we're going to explain better when I figure out how, there's a point where we ship internationally. I think it's above like, let me see if I can see that. There's a point where it flips and becomes like, that's crazy expensive shipping. Let's see here. I think it's like above, yeah, it's above 4 pounds. So above 4 pounds, it's $19.99 shipping. Then it goes like $28.99, and it can go really expensive. Like if you need to ship 30 pounds, which that could be like 40 sponge filters or something, right? The shipping on that's like $200. So if you think shipping's getting a little crazy in your international shipping, it's the weight. So you might go, oh, watch this. I drop a product off, boom, shipping's reasonable again. There's no way for us to get around that currently that I know of. So just know it's weight-based, so things like hats, super cheap to ship. A bag of gravel going to cost you $1 million. So, how about dog merch? It's definitely, my wife and I would love to do that. Randy's really on board too. And I do, like, I find my eye kind of wandering at the shows, like, oh, that thing's pretty cool. And hold on, nope, I do freshwater aquatics. That's what I do. But I do think long term, my goal, I would love it if everything in my life I had the ability that I could solve. Like, I don't like the way this thing is. Let's make one of those. That'll be a fun project. So I hope to be able to like there was a special dog harness we really liked when we were in Interzoo. We wrote down the name, and yeah, they were manufactured. We could sell them. We'll probably just test out a couple of them, but maybe that's something we launch in 5 years, right? Because Corey wants to. But for now, I still have a light. There's still lots of work on my plate of like, I need to get this done. I need to get that done. We need to get shipping done. We need to get this done. And so I don't want to go, I don't want like a side project of like, ooh, I'm really looking towards, But I do know that the odds of someone owning a dog or a cat when they own fish is very high. And if we keep doing things right and you guys still believe in us, you'll probably give a dog or a cat product a try. And if we do a good job there, it'd be a winning thing. But I don't want to become like, we're just Fluval and we do everything, right? And we do everything mediocre. The minute that starts happening, I would have to go, we got to drop this other crap. We do freshwater aquatics. That's what we do. Community tanks, plants, shrimp, snails, fish breeding, all that kind of stuff. That's what we do. That is our bread and butter. If we get too far off of that and quality suffers, got to slap myself and go back to what we do well. So that's so far why I keep going, nope, we don't do that. That's also why I don't keep dart frogs in the fish room, because I'll get tempted. What's my position on polyfill and a hang-on back? My current setup is coarse sponge on the bottom and polyfill before back into the aquarium. Yeah, that's a fine polishing pad. You can buy that in bulk at Walmart's, and that kind of stuff works pretty good. You just got to use something so it doesn't want to leave the thing, something to hold it there. But yeah, if it was more economical to ship, maybe we'd offer some besides our fine filter pad. But it's pretty available at a lot of Walmart's and those types of stores. Aquarium Co-op logo dog collar. Yeah, it could be something that simple, but instantly I'm like I know for my dogs, I want something ultra lightweight, not that they're going to want to scratch, but also hold like an Apple AirTag, so that way if they ever got out, I could try and find them. I'd always want to be pushing the bounds a little bit, and so ultra lightweight, longevity, super flexible so it's not stiff on their neck, maybe hold that AirTag. And I don't even know if it would be a collar. I think it needs to be a harness, because like I'm a small dog connoisseur. I love all dogs, but it's a lot of strain on an animal's neck if they're trying to get another dog or a kid or whatever. You don't want the choke point being on their neck, because you can damage stuff. And so it's much better if it goes around their shoulder area, less stuff to damage there, and it holds the animal better. And so that's why we would probably, like at some point we'd probably have a collar, but I'd be trying to go, hey, when we take our dogs for a walk, we utilize a harness, and therefore we'd be testing that out a lot. And I think the problem is too many people use a collar as the thing to walk their dogs, and a well-trained dog in a situation where it doesn't have a fight or flight response is fine. However, it's like, so to me, and this is not my specialty, so let me give all the disclaimers of like I'm just an idiot on the internet. But to me, it's like we don't put a collar on and use that to prevent us from hurting ourselves in an accident in a car, right? Like even though we're trying to protect our head, we don't like make sure the head doesn't move because there's too much damage that would happen there. Instead, you go across the body to hold the body, even though the head can move. We don't want there to be more damage from the safety device, the collar, than we do the actual accident. And so that's where, properly fitting a harness on your dog and spending special attention to where the leash connects to the harness, to have the right pressure points and the way so it doesn't rub on their armpit. So on long walks, like there's a bunch of stuff. And just like I was talking about lights, there's a lot of stuff you got to think about. I got to think about all that stuff with a dog collar or a cat collar or any of that stuff. And so that's where I know like it's a serious amount of work if I was going to go, we're putting the Aquarium Co-op name on any product, but especially something that I'm not used to analyzing and really trying to make the best of. And so when we do that though, rest assured, I will know a lot about dog harnesses and collars if we were to go down that road. I'm 20 and I hope to have the co-op on my kids' Monopoly board one day. That'd be kind of cool. Finding quality items for my service dog is extremely difficult. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like aquariums, right? For my dogs, or maybe for all my pets, which I really only have dogs and fish right now, but I always end up with that bin of like, this should have been great, but wasn't, but it's not terrible, and I paid good money for it, so put it in that bin. Maybe that'll fit a dog down the road. Maybe, and I think part of the problem is there's a lot of money in the dog and cat hobby, and so there's lots of hype train, and not enough like, well, what's the Flu Ball 3.0 version of a dog harness and a dog leash and dog foods and all of that. And everyone's going to have different opinions and stuff. And so I get it. But maybe at the level I'm into dogs, which isn't, I'm not going to shows and all that kind of stuff, but I find it difficult to make informed decisions. And if you're like me, probably a lot of times you're just reading Amazon reviews and going, yeah, let's give this a try. And then you go, it wasn't so good. Let's give this one a try. The hobby needs you to fix the hang-on back filter. They're all junk, from the cheapest Chinese brand to the most expensive flue ball brand. I don't know that they're all junk. You could make that same thing. You could probably be like, all cars are not perfect. I think it's very difficult to make a perfect product for everybody. That being said, I do hold stuff accountable of like, if you have this much global reach and this much money and all of this, and I watch you launch 5 other hang-on backs, why not fix the one that is your leading selling one and is a known problem, fix that known problem? That's what kills me, when it's like, maybe they don't have the money, maybe they lost the R&D department, maybe this, and then you watch them launch like another one. You're like, why'd you launch another one when you could just fix the one you have? Now you just sell 3 different the same thing. We watch Fluval do that. We watch Tetra do that. We watch lots of companies. They're like, you have 6 different types, canisters or hang-on backs. Just make one really good one. Keep making that one better. I get it when they only have one and they might not have the budget to like re-engineer it or something. I get that. I'm a small business. I understand that part. But if you're already doing more, like make the one you make better instead of making another one. Like, businesses, unfortunately, let's say you've got a product and it's 75% good. They look at it and go, well, if we launch another product and it's 75% good, we're 150% now. Like, no. You still just have 2 products that are 75%. It's much better to go from 75% to now your product's at 80%. And then next time, try to get it to 85. And maybe you'll never get it past 85, right? But at least that 85 is still better than having 3 products that are 75% as good. And most businesses, and I watch my own company do the same thing. That's not new money though. I don't care about new money. Because like, if you launch this, like this will get a different demographic. Like, no. We want the best. We just want the best version. That's all we care about. That's all I care about anyway. Come here, baby. Come here.
We have a surprise for you.
Oh, yeah?
You want a warm strawberry?
No.
Why not?
Warm strawberries seem terrible.
No, it's fresh. You want it or not?
Oh.
She's been barking at me and Bob for like the last 3 hours, having the time of her life.
Yeah. Katie's been in the garden. Warm strawberries. Gross.
You're ridiculous.
You're a hot puppy. How hot is it? It's up to 79 in here now. Oh, baby.
It's hot outside. There's no clouds.
Can you go see Mom? Oh, hold on. Go see Mom.
Hey, slow it down.
Running down the stairs. All right. Just ordered my hat and some pogo. All right, well, I'm going to focus on the stream. She'll go down. Let's see. Covered in dog hair. And just talking about hang-on backs and strawberries. Yes, dog intermission. That was Tinky, the terror. We call this the Tinky Tower, actually, because she'll run up here and just, what's going on? And then she'll patrol around and go, okay, nothing going on up here, and go. She's very protective of the house. Then she'll go back down and look outside and make sure no one's coming for us. All right. 10 minutes left. Okay, where am I? I'm a little sidetrack here. Do I like Lava Rock? Thinking of using it as a DIY media and a canister filter. It totally works. That's what I'll say. On a spectrum, right? Of, is it the best media? No. Is it super cheap? Yes. What I don't like about it is once it gets clogged up with fish poop, it's really hard to clean. I'm not saying it can't be cleaned. I'm just saying the average person like me goes, rinsing it. That's good enough. when it's not good enough, honestly. We need to be like boiling it or using bleach or something to really get it clean again. So it really gets utilized in koi ponds and stuff where you need like tons of media, and that would be very expensive. And so you're forced to use that. But in like my canisters for my tanks, I usually go, let me find some cheaper bio rings. Like it used to be, bio rings when I started were like $15 because Flu Ball was dominating the game. Now they're more like 6 to 8. And I honestly end up running more sponge than I do bio rings, but yeah, you could use it. I don't want people to be like, Corey said you couldn't use it. That's not what I'm trying to say. Just know that everything is on a scale of how cheap to how easy to use, and you'll be somewhere on that scale. And I've been at all levels because I believe that you can't really have an opinion on it until you've tried it. And it's like, yeah, it works well until you're like, oh yeah, year 3, like it's pretty clogged up and I should probably think about replacing it, or I gotta clean it, but oh man, it's a real pain to clean. And and the other thing is too, there's a big variance. Sometimes you'll get the lava rock and it will be the way the lava went. It doesn't have as many pores. Like I don't know how to explain that, but sometimes really porous and nice. Other times like this one's kind of chunky, not so much porous. But it is super cheap, and you can just go to Home Depot and be like, I got a whole bag of it. You get $5. Like, it was amazing. But you'll end up paying for it probably whenever you go to clean it. So, is there a root tab you'd recommend that's available in the UK? I'm not sure what's available in the UK at the moment, but most root tabs are fairly okay-ish. I know that's not really that helpful, but because I don't know the market, I can't tell you like I would use this because I don't know what's available there. CO2 regulator update next month, I think. Is that right? Candy would know. Now that I've said, yeah, I think we just got an update that it should be on the next container, which I think is next month. Is it on there? No, it's not on there. It's stainless steel check valves are, but CO2 regulator is not on there yet. But our tote bags will be, and some other items too. So yeah, it's still, I think they're still making boxes or something for it. Yeah, I don't think it can be because I was still proofing the final instructions while I was in Germany. Still making tweaks so that there's the least amount of people going, I don't know how it works. Where's the warm strawberry emoji? Yeah. Who would like a warm strawberry? That's like warm pumpkin pie. Gross. Warm strawberries? Come on. Ugh. How about a nice, cool, refreshing strawberry? Warm? I mean, maybe in a jam, all right? Some peanut butter toast with some strawberry jam. But even then I don't want it to be warm. I want it to be cool. Tinky emoji. Oh, I do have a couple of last minute announcements. We have a new person to join the team. We hired someone for our supply chain management role. Ryan will be joining the team. He has bred different rainbow fish and stuff like that. So active hobbyists, we were able to find someone in the hobby. Another person, directly. And we wanted that so that a hobbyist can identify, like, this ain't right when supply chain issues are happening. So that was good. And then Joel has joined us full-time. So from part-time to full-time, that hopefully will mean opening the store either on time or a little sooner or whatever. It is good to have somebody more on it. That's right. I just called Joel a more on it. I was there yesterday meeting with him, and we're pushing forward. We got racks going up. Talking with Dean, we're going to start ordering some of the filtration. And I think it's the week of 4th of July. We're already, like, the problem is every step of, like, the Murphy tank, because people want to ask about the Murphy tank, there's so much work to be done that, like, the background, okay, so we have to unroll a 20-foot long background. We have to clean both sides of it. And Dean's like, yeah, I got the perfect like push broom, so we don't have to get on our hands and knees to do it. Like, we can. It's like one you'd use for a car. Like we're thinking of how do we even prep the things that are going to go into this giant aquarium. So it's a big ordeal. But that should start, I think, 4th of July week towards the end. We'll start washing and drying that thing, and because it's in a roll, right? And you have to flatten that thing way out, and then we're gonna probably like fold it a couple of times, get it in the back of a van, move it, lay it back out in the sun, and then get it laying down flat inside the building, let it cool down, because I would hate for you put the silicone in and the background's too hot and there's a weird reaction or something. So yeah. All right. Aquarium Co-op should do a collab with Supreme Skateboarding brand. I would buy all of it. If we were going to do a collab, I'd want to do it with like Pal Peralta. Probably. I mean, if I'm getting to choose. I don't think that it's necessarily all the skateboarding brands are going to be fighting over us, but it would be super cool to actually have our own like skateboard deck with one of them. That'd be pretty cool. I don't know what we would do yet, but I always think it's kind of cool how professional skateboarders get to have their own decks and everything. It'd be pretty cool if Aquarium Co-op could do that as well. Not that I'm like a giant skater or anything, I just enjoy watching it. Thoughts on rosy barbs to a planet tank with Christmas moss, Java moss. Will they eat everything? Tinky's losing her mind right now. I don't think they'll absolutely eat everything, but it will definitely slow down growth. Those new growth, they'll take little bites. I think they're good at eating algae, and a lot of times moss will grow algae, and then they'll eat some of that. I think Anubias and Java ferns and crinums and thicker plants in general do better. Bigger, thicker, stronger plants, where like smaller stem plants tend to become little bites. Skateboard with the loaf on it. I like it. If I have hard water and high pH, does crushed coral do anything? Because I have a bag of it. Well, it does, but it's crazy slow. So the easier answer is like not really, because you've already like the pH isn't going to dissolve it very well, and even if it was dissolving it, you've got a lot of minerals probably in the water already, and so very limited use. I would say like just let it sit there and not use it if you could. All over blind. That's no good. Yeah, but I'd want I almost want like a retro skateboard, and I like the skull theme and all of that. So, but I'm not turning down anybody else either. I would be honored to even work with another brand on something like that. Brand new Australian viewer, beginner to freshwater, just wondering, could I keep killifish with live bears? If you're not planning on keeping the babies, yeah, probably. Obviously, don't keep like the biggest killifish with the smallest live bear, but in general, yeah, I think you can make an aquarium that, would have like gardener eye killies and some guppies or something. There's obvious stuff that could work, like Norman lamp eye killies are basically like a tetra, and they would do fine with a lot of other stuff, but most people are looking for that kind of, a little bit bigger, brighter, beautiful killifish, and then getting that same kind of stuff out of their live bearers. Yes, probably would do okay if you're not working or not worrying about the babies. Plastic scrubbers for cheap biomedia. Yeah, those actually work pretty good. I can't really say boo about it. I would say, yeah. I would just say yes. The problem, what I don't like about them is sometimes people pack way too many in or put too much reliance on them. But yes, the reality is your gym sock can grow bacteria. Anything can. The shirt can. Like, everything's going to grow bacteria. I actually do like scrubbies quite a bit. What I find is that when people get cheap media, they end up being like, I fit 7,000 of these things in here. And I'm like, cool, you've actually designed it yourself, but you've made it so much that it's such a pain to maintenance that you don't maintenance enough. Like, It's kind of like a small house is easier to keep clean. It gets dirty faster, but like, oh yeah, half a day got it clean. A giant house, you can let it get way overrun, and then it takes forever to get it cleaned up. So I find that goes on a lot when people are like, I'm using the pot scrubbies and I've got a billion of them. Like I got a whole, IBC tote full of them. Like, yeah, but it's a 4-hour project to get those things out and clean that thing. That's not better than just like a canister filter at this point. So don't fall into that trap. Like, it's fine to replace normal media, works pretty good. Don't fall down the rabbit hole on that. Do I think I'll ever remake the version of the Tiger Loach and the Clown Barb in the 800 gallon? Probably not. Cool. I probably will keep Clown Loaches at some point, but if I did, it would be at a public display. So maybe at the store or something like that. Not so much for my own personal enjoyment again. But it is a very interesting and fun setup, and it deserves to be in the public eye if I do it again. Any recommendation for biomedia in a sump? Really, I've done it all. Bio rings are fine. Undergravel filter with gravel's fine. Pot scrubbies is fine. Sponge pads are fine. Any of that will grow bacteria. The reality is you probably don't need to grow bacteria in a sump, though. That's the hot take. What? What did he say? Yes. Probably. Like reality is you've got probably way more bacteria than you even need inside of your aquarium to begin with for most people. But if you did need it, put anything down there, even plants would do fine. Any of those things will work. All right. It's 79 degrees. My back is sweaty because I'm sitting in a leather chair and the lights have been glaring on me. And you guys haven't bought all my hats yet, which means I got to go because I got to promote more hat selling. And really, I'm just going to try and set up my portable air conditioner because it's only getting hotter. And the Tiki Tower needs to be occupied by myself. So I'm going to see if I can get that going without too much swearing today. I got to bring it up the flights of stairs and see if I can mount it in the window. And then hopefully it's not horrible. So thanks for hanging out today. Nice smaller crew by design, by the way. Middle of the day on a Friday. It's nice weather. Get out there, enjoy nature. Don't forget to spend all of the money you've ever had and will have with aquariumcoop.com. Unless you don't want to, and that's fine too. Reach out to us on the forums. Leave comments. If you have a problem with anything, let us know. Customer service will get back to you. And we'll get through this summer together. I'll see you next week for another juicy live stream. And